Hi guys, welcome back to another video. So today is going to be something different. I'm deciding that I'm going to be taking down this shrine again. So lately I've been thinking really hard about my hobby and about where I want this to go within like the next 5 to 10 years. And when I think about my life in the next 10 years, I'm just thinking, okay, I'm going to be entering my 30s, and do I still want to be collecting all of this stuff and going the way I'm going now, or do I want to like switch it up? And the conclusion that I came to is that because I can't really afford this hobby, I should like downsize it. Like, I don't think I will quit collecting or quit continuing to follow these series and like the next releases and all that, but I want to narrow down my focus even more. That way I can enjoy being a part of fandom and still collect merch without having to spend a lot of money on all kinds of merch. Before I got into collecting, I was actually collecting toys, and I would just constantly buy like blind bag toys and try to collect them, complete the checklist, things like that, and it cost a lot of money. But I realized those toys didn't really have like an emotional connection like how these stories do. So what I would do is I would just get rid of my toys because they honestly have like no value. Once like the whole trend and fad is like over, it's gone, I got rid of my toys, and when I got into Daime, I was like, oh my gosh, I connect with these stories like never before. Specifically BL. I just feel like a lot of the stories are written so well, it's so amazing. So I decided to collect MXTX's merch. I was like, you know what, I never actually collect a lot of merch from a single series before, so I decided, you know what, this is my chance right now to buy a bunch of merch from my favorite series and just see how it goes. As you can tell, I bought a lot of stuff, and I think it turned out really well with the way my display is going. I love the merch pieces. Every time I buy a new merch piece from MXTX series, like no doubt I'm gonna like these pieces. And I used to collect anime merch as well, but I would collect from all kinds of series. I would buy like one figure for this series, a couple of acrylics for the other series, and I just felt like my collection was never really looking amazing on my shelves. Like everything was just so randomized. So when you look at my shelf, you don't really know which series I'm into. So when I got into Daime, I was like, you know what, I'm going to narrow my focus down to just BL only because I enjoy a lot of series from this genre, which later led me to a lot of problems online on TikTok. I didn't realize that being a girl and liking BL can put me in such a a state where, you get a lot of hate because you're a girl and you're reading BL and consuming BL. I didn't realize that was gonna be a thing. When I just got into BL and just focused on collecting merch of these series, I was just genuinely enjoying it because I liked it. But because I accumulated debt and I have like things to pay off, and there's a lot of merch releases and I can never keep up with it because I can't afford it, I decided that, maybe it's time for me to just stop buying a bunch of things from the same series and narrow my focus down even more. So for MXTX series, rather than just buying a bunch of plushies, figures, acrylics, let's narrow it down to the next best merch that's also budget friendly. My conclusion is that I would buy things like art prints, little cards. I think cards are actually one of the cheapest items that you can buy from merch series that's available through different merch lines. So like if MXTX releases like merchandise line, right? In the series set, you have like the acrylics, you have keychains, you have acrylic stands. I just said that. It comes with badges, things like that. But if I just focus on getting the cards only, then I can keep my spending to like a minimum, and then also compact my collection into a binder, keeping it small in the space that I have because I am pretty much out of room. I don't have any more space to buy big pieces of merch. Definitely no more ring dolls. I decided that I'm not going to buy any more ring dolls, even if Ring Doll releases another MXTX doll, because I just cannot afford the space for it. Like at this point, I'm already going to be getting 9 total dolls from Ring Dolls, so I don't think I need any more. So now that I'm looking through my collection and I'm trying to decide which merch pieces should I sell off, or maybe not even sell off, because the first step to getting rid of my addiction and slowly letting this thing go is to take off merch pieces that I am not super into, which would be figurines for me. And something else I think I can let go would be plushies, because plushies are very bulky, they're bigger, they also can cost a lot of money too. So if I stop collecting that in the future, I think I'll be okay. For my acrylic stands, that's a tough one because I love acrylic stands so much. They're like 3D art prints, so I'm probably going to hang on to that for now, but I plan on taking those off the shelf to free up some space. Once I take everything down from these shelves, aside from the ring dolls, I think I'll leave my ring dolls here, and I'll leave some large merch pieces that I really like on here, like some acrylic stands, and maybe my Bushinshin figure can stay on the shelves. But stuff like my Nendoroids, maybe I'll just like pack those away along with the plushies. Oh my gosh, it's like It kind of hurts to like take it all down because everything just looks so good. I can have it like be out of sight and out of mind, so that way I don't think about it so much, but then also not be afraid that if I sell it off then I'll end up regretting it. I just want to really decide if I can make this switch, this adjustment to having a new setting and seeing if I'll be happy with it for the next few months. And if I am, then I can slowly start to sell off my merch and I think I'll be okay. You know, when you bought everything, when you bought all the pieces that you want and then trying to make yourself downgrade, that way you can become less attached to it, is so hard. At least if you collect small merch pieces and you stick to it and you haven't bought big merch pieces yet, then it's a little bit easier to adjust to. It's always easier to upgrade than to downgrade, right? So I'm having a hard time trying to decide if I really want to go through with this, but I think I will. I'm just so nervous about it. I think doing this in the long haul will help me a lot with saving money. That way I can start to make money, save it, and just spend it on a few merch pieces. I really want to spend money on Donmei novels or like original source material, like novels is one of them. So there are people who only collect novels and they don't buy merch pieces, which they save a ton of money and space too. Novels are more compact, although if you end up buying like a crap ton of novels, then yeah, you lose space, but still it's way much more space saving and money saving than if you were to buy a bunch of other merch pieces from the same series. So I think if I were just to buy original source material, it'll be novels and it'll be drama box sets, because I also really enjoy Thai BL. I like to have some of the merch pieces from the Thai BL box sets and also the art prints as well. And I'm gonna try to narrow my focus to just art prints. Official art prints is even better, because sometimes I have like fan art prints and I don't always like them, but I feel the need to keep fan art prints even if I don't like the art style, just because it's the character. And I feel like that's just hoarding at that point. So I'm gonna go through my stuff and get rid of fan art prints that I don't like anymore and get rid of those. In an ideal world, I'm sure most of us would just have all the space that we want and buy every single merch piece out there, but I know that's not going to happen. When I collect things, there's no way I'm ever going to have every single item that's going to be released. So I really want to get rid of this FOMO feeling and stop feeling like I'm going to miss out on everything, because I will miss out on everything. There's no way I'm going to be able to get everything, even if I narrow down my focus and all that. You know, I'm not gonna, if I collect cards, I'm not gonna collect every single card out there. So I need to like train myself to be in a mindset. I don't need to be a completist. I don't need to have every single thing that's getting released from a certain merch piece type, whatever. It's just so hard to adjust to. And because like I've always been a collector ever since I was a kid. I was always collecting stuff, hands me down stuff. Okay, I would keep those. And then throughout my teen years, I would collect anime merch, random dolls, blind bag toys, random things like little handheld fans. It's like all these little random things that I would just keep, you know? I always have like a hard time letting go of my material goods. Some people are like, you know, if you hang on to these things, it's probably because there's like a deeper rooted trauma or something that you're going through. There's like a deeper rooted issue. And I think for me, it's because I always had a hard time keeping people around, like keeping around the company that I wanted when I was in school. I always was changing best friends like every single year. It's like every year I have like a new best friend that I would hang out with. And even though I wanted to hang out with the other person, they always left me. And the thing about collecting material goods is that the material goods don't leave you. They only leave you if you leave them first. So that's why I think I kind of hang on to these stories, because these stories are not going to go anywhere. They're not going to leave me. They're my place of comfort. Unlike people, when you get to know them, they can leave you. They can leave you on their own accord. And I guess that's where I have like, I don't know, what's called attachment issues or something. So I have a hard time letting go of my stuff because of that. And yeah, a lot of hate comments will tell me like, why don't you just go get therapy and get your life together, go get a job and do this and that, like, you know, be like productive member of society and all this. But I know maybe they're saying it out of concern, but they say it in a way that's not very nice. So I feel like they're not really saying it out of concern, they're just saying it out of spite. But I get what they mean, you know, like, oh, go get therapy, get some help and all that. The thing is, I am very aware of my issues and I kind of know how to go about it slowly. I'm kind of like figuring it out and coming to terms with it, I guess. It's just some things are just kind of hard to adjust to and accept. So if I go to therapy, I feel like I'm just going to hear the same thing what I'm saying right now. So I don't know, who knows, maybe I'll get some better advice. But I've been encouraged by people around me to not seek therapy because it didn't really help them. So I'm just like, well, I'm not going to put money into it either, because that's more money just to hear the same things I'm telling you right now. And I just feel like I'm at a point where I'm self-aware enough to want to be able to change too, you know? Some people are self-aware and then like they don't want to change, but I do want to change this. I want to change this part of my life and I want to better myself. That way in the next 10 years, you know, I can be doing something totally different and maybe have a more minimalistic hobby and be somebody who's not totally obsessed with acrylic stands and art prints. I'm just a sucker for really pretty things and very amazing stories. But the fact that I narrowed down my focus this far from going from toys, things that I'm not very emotionally attached to, it's just for like aesthetic purposes, down to BL, the genre that I really like, and stories that I am emotionally attached to, I think it's progress in itself. I'm going from my stories that I really like just from collecting to a few series. You know, I think currently I am collecting 7 different series. I really try to keep this contained and not expand to a bunch of different series, you know. Some people do that because they can afford to, but I feel like I have such a limited space and there's so much merch in every series. MDZS has like the most merch ever. They're literally coming out with merch every single month. So I need to narrow down my focus to certain merch types, preferably budget-friendly merch types. And then eventually, if I'm lucky enough, I can hopefully just fade off from the hobby and find something that's more minimalistic, something that can get me to do different things, maybe go outside more. And I was thinking about maybe trying out like photography, not really professionally, you know, just getting like a more nice camera and using my savings to go to different places because I never really traveled before. And I have an uncle who actually bought like a nice DSLR camera or something, or whatever camera it was. It was very nice and expensive. The lens was like $800. And he likes to drive himself to different cities and he just walks around the city, different nature areas, different parks, and he would just go out there by himself, take pictures. And then he shows me the pictures and I'm like, it looks really nice. You know, he knows how to take like good photos. That's pretty much all he does. He enjoys himself by himself and just enjoying nature and just taking pictures of the scenery. I think that's so cool. Like he can just keep the pictures on his digital storage without having to enjoy life and collecting all these material goods. So I think photography is actually more of like a minimalistic hobby if you invest into the gear, which is kind of hefty at first, but maybe it's actually worth it. And since I was in middle school, I actually always wanted to like travel to different places. I want to go like different countries in Asia because like that's where all these series that I like are from. And I would just never get the opportunity to be able to do that just because I'm constantly buying merch. Like I'm bringing the goods from Asia to me rather than bringing myself to Asia and seeing these different places and exploring different things. I don't know if I'm going to interact with people. Probably not. Maybe there'll be opportunities for that, but that's not the thing that I'm looking forward to the most. I just like to sightsee and be on like my own with somebody and just enjoy my time over there and actually live real life experiences and then use my expensive camera to take pictures and capture the moments. And then maybe in like 50 years I can like flip through my album and just look back at it. I don't even know if I'll flip through a physical album. I'll just be flipping through my scrolling through my iPad and like looking at my digital memories instead. And if you don't know, I have tried to get rid of my merch before. I did so once last year, trying to downsize my MXTX merch. I tried to sell it off actually. At one point I was like, you know what, let me try to downsize and not let this get out of hand. So I took down my acrylics and I immediately listed it up for sale. Literally a month later, I started regretting it. I regret it so bad that I started to do research and collect back most of the things that I sold off. So I have most of it back now. It's just so bad. Like the way the relapse works, it's like, you know, you enjoy this thing. And I was trying to move on so fast, like a switch. And I feel like that didn't work for me. So I like to take my time and take these things down off my shelf, put it into storage and make sure I don't regret it later because it's going to be so much pain and hassle to try to get back the merch that I sold off. It happened again this year too with my Ghost Nocturne shrine. I sold off some merch. And then a week later, I regretted it. It was such an awful decision. I need to like stop doing that. Like stop trying to make these really big decisions on a whim because I know I'm going to relapse and then spend a crap ton of more money just to make up for it because I feel so bad doing so. So I'm going to let myself down slowly to get rid of this, I don't know what you call it, addiction or whatever. I don't really consider it an addiction just because I feel like I just don't make as much as a person who has stable income. I don't make as much as somebody who has minimum wage. If I had minimum wage at least, I think I would be able to afford all these things without problem. I can pay back my debt in like a couple of months. It really wouldn't be any issue, really. The amount that I spend, because it's not like I have much money. So what I spend is probably just like amount of like a regular collector who collects, you know, here and there. So anybody with a regular full-time job above minimum wage could be able to afford it. In America, of course. I know currency and all that stuff. I'm talking about if you have a full-time job in America, because like some people who are in countries where the currency is weaker, you can't afford as much merch. I know like ring dolls are just I don't know if they cost as much as a car to some people in other countries. I really don't know. But I know some people can't afford it in other countries. I'm talking about US currency. So it took me about several days to clear up these shelves. I have several empty cubbies now. Starting off right here underneath my Scum Villain shrine, I have my Danmei novels from Seven Seas and also Peach Flower House. If I didn't collect any other merch, pretty much these would be all of my Danmei novels in English so far. And you know, looking at it, it really doesn't take up that much space. I barely fill up like 2 shelves of it. I'm also planning to double stack it once I order some more novels, so that way I can catch up with certain series. I will now be leaving these 2 shelves for the other Danmei novels whenever I want to expand, so because I plan on focusing more on novels now. These 4 shelves right here, we have the bottom 2, which is going to be dedicated to binders whenever I buy some more prints, and if I want to print out my own pictures, I can have like a row just full of 2-inch binders maybe. The top 2 shelves will be dedicated to Thai BL box sets, so if I watch a Thai drama, I like the drama, then I will probably buy the box sets. That's pretty much all I want to focus on right now. It's just Danmei novels and Thai BL and prints. I think for now I'm pretty much done with Korean BL merch, because Korean BL merch is so expensive, and they're also really limited too. But I'm also happy with the amount that I got so far. I do have some Ghost Nocturne merch up there, and it's not the entire thing that I ordered, so if I end up doing unboxings later on in the year, it's because these items have been pre-ordered months in advance and I don't receive them until half a year later. I decided to keep some of the merch up on this side just because if I were to clear out everything on the bottom half, it will look really empty and that would kind of bother me as well. So because I don't have enough things to fill up all the shelves and all the empty spaces, I might as well just keep the merch here and just enjoy it for now. I think I forgot to mention it earlier, but the reason why I collect all this merch so fast, so you know how I started collecting Danmei merch in like September 2022? It's now September 2024, so it's been like exactly 2 years since I started collecting Danmei merch, and I have like 9 full bookcases of BL merch, which is kind of fast paced, you know, like it takes a while to collect these things for most people over the years to sometimes to get to the amount that I have right now. And I just remember the reason why I started collecting so fast and furious in the first place. Like in 2022, I was talking to this girl. I thought I was going to be like seeing her, you know, I thought she was going to be like someone I would want to spend my time with a lot and like, you know, be like a girlfriend pretty much. But we had some issues and she wasn't a very honest person. She wasn't genuine. So we had a little falling out and I had to leave, and I developed some trust issues. But at the same time, during that year as well, my parents were also going through some tough times. It was very tough time. Actually, 2022 was like the worst year of my life, honestly. And I turned to Danmei for comfort. I feel like something like this is kind of hard for me to explain just because I have to be very open about the things that I went through. So just bear with me. As someone who is like highly anxious and trying to explain how I'm dealing with these situations and why I did the things that I did, even though it can be like harmful for the future. Although now a couple of years have passed and things have toned down in the family, I feel a lot better. And now I'm wanting to think more about my future and my financial decisions, which is exactly why I want to change my approach and how I enjoy my hobbies. So that's why I like to say that me accumulating so much merch in a short amount of time was a way for me to cope with my issues, to cope with my anxiety, to cope with the heartbreak that I was dealing with, the family drama. It's a really addictive coping mechanism, you know? But sometimes I also feel like, you know, spending a lot of merch isn't as bad as like spending all this money on like substance abuse, for example, because I know that's even harder to get out of when you start putting addictive chemicals into your body, and that affects, you know, your overall health. So I feel like it could be worse, but at least I'm aware of what I'm doing right now and I want to improve it. So yeah, for now I plan on collecting just these novels, art prints, printing out my own pictures as a way to downgrade and pretty much slow down on merch buying without having to completely stop. And who knows, maybe in the future I will even go to ebooks instead. That's very hard for me to comprehend because I like to read my novels physically, and I just find it so weird to read like on an iPad or a Kindle. To me, the physical books always just feels better, even though it's really bulky. But the thing is that if I continue to buy Danmei novels physically, eventually it's going to become very big, and books are so heavy to carry around, so I really have to consider that in the future. Wouldn't it be crazy if my life story was just being about starting off as a hoarder, then becoming like an actual collector, to becoming like a minimalist? That would be so crazy. I don't think I could ever be like a strict minimalist to where I can only keep things that I really need and just have like no decorations. I know those are some extreme minimalists, but I think most minimalists still continue to keep things that they like just because they like it. Not everything has to be for practical use, but it just seems so hard, you know? I'm so used to buying things, and making that type of adjustment might be worth it though, because every time I think about moving houses and then having to carry like 30 boxes full of merch and a bunch of items I feel like it's too much. We did our house renovations last year and I packed everything into my boxes. And I had like 30 different boxes that I had to carry out into storage. And it was just so much. I was like, wow, I feel a little bit suffocated by all the things that I owned. And I'm like, I really do have a lot. Not as much as some other collectors I've seen, but it's still a lot. I also like the idea of feeling more lightweight whenever I sell off my merch. There's like more free space. You know, I wish getting rid of stuff off my shelf and selling them would be as easy as deleting photos from my iPad. Like, I wish the process was just easy as a click of a button. And I can do that easily if I just collect digital files rather than physical merch. And right now I feel like the hardest part to get over is if I decide to sell off my merch, that I wouldn't relapse after I made my decision. The hardest part is to see all these other people collecting merch, new merch that's coming out, having all these big wonderful releases and still be able to say no to it. I feel like that's going to be the most hardest, the most tempting moment, is that I might relapse, come back, buy everything all over again, and then just continue to repeat the process. But if I do decide to sell it off, I will be done with buying merch pretty much almost for good. You know, I might collect the smaller stuff, but I will try to really not buy so much and accumulate so much all at once and keep things to a minimum too. I really don't want to have over 30 boxes by the time I decide to move to a different place. And that's a thing that I really envy about minimalists, is the fact that they can just put things into their backpack and have like a couple of luggages and then just be able to move to different places. They can enjoy different homes without having to carry so much weight with them. I think that's one thing I really envy the most about them. They don't have attachment to pretty merch decor as much. They just see it as like things that take up space and collect dust, which I wish I can honestly have that same mindset. I see what they're coming from, but at the same time, I'm just a sucker for beautiful things and things that bring me joy emotionally. But again, the biggest motivator for me to want to do all this and get rid of my things is because in 10 years, I do not want to continue to see myself accumulating more and more merch to the point where I don't even have enough space to walk in my room. That's my biggest motivator, to have some savings in case of emergency, to be able to have some savings to travel to different places that I've never been to before and just sightsee and capture my own memories and create my own stories, just like the ones I love and adore. That's my goal.